Are you nervous about starting solid foods? Are you worried that you're not gonna know what to do? So in this video, I wanna share 7 common baby-led weaning mistakes I personally have made with the hope that you don't have to make the same mistakes. We can all learn from each other. So here are my 7 common baby-led weaning mistakes and how you can avoid them. I remember before we had kids, I was pregnant with my first and I was trying to get my husband to read all of those baby books and he kept not reading the baby books and he was like, I think I'm just gonna go with my gut when the baby shows up. Like, I'm pretty sure my natural parenting instincts will kick in and I don't need any of these parenting books. And I remember being so nervous about making mistakes when I had a baby. And I know the same thing goes when you're getting ready to start solid foods. All right, mistake number 1, I see this all the time. Babies' feet are dangling in the high chair, okay? We want your baby's feet resting flat on a solid foot plate, okay? That is key for helping your baby establish their core strength, right? First, they gotta be sitting up before you can even start solid foods, but then when you put them in the high chair, having their feet resting flat on that solid foot plate really stabilizes and helps support their core in order to facilitate a safe swallow. So you can either get a high chair that already has an adjustable foot plate, or you can DIY your own and make one. Okay. I know personally, I used to use a feeding table for my quadruplets and I look back at the videos now and I cringe because their little feet are dangling. It really does increase the choking risk. What could I have done there? I could have taken a stool with boxes or phone books or textbooks and put it on top of that so each of the baby's feet were resting flat on a solid foot plate. Mistake number 2. Putting the food directly on the table. It feels like, oh, we're gonna feed the baby, let's just put the food on the table or put the food on the tray. However, when we do that, especially early on in feeding, okay, your 6 and 7-month-old baby, they don't have their pincer grasp yet. They're using their whole hand or their palmar grasp. And you put the food on the table, you know what they do? They smash it and then they smash it around and then there's no barrier against which they can rake or scoop the food up. And so they get frustrated and you get frustrated and you're like, this baby-led weaning thing doesn't work because the baby can't get the food to their mouth. But it does work if you use a suction mat or bowl. All right, 3rd mistake. And I have been guilty of this. I'm a type A mom. I like things to be tidy and neat, but wiping your baby's face while they're eating can be such a negative sensory experience for the baby. I mean, think about it. How would you feel if you were trying to learn how to eat oatmeal and this lady just like kept coming at you with her wet wipe or her washcloth, okay? I know it's hard, but it's actually important to let the baby get messy as part of the learning how to eat process, right? Learning how to eat is this full sensory experience. And the goal is not to get X amount of food into the baby's belly, okay? That comes way later. We want your baby to smell and taste and touch and smash the food, okay? And especially when they're learning how to drink out of an open cup, they're gonna be working on their lip closure, right? And it's not gonna work at the beginning and they're gonna have liquid spilling down the side of their face and they're gonna learn from that and adjust it and do it a little bit better the next time and do it a little bit better the next time. But if you're always in there wiping them, they could have a negative sensory experience and a negative association with food and feeding. But try not to wipe your baby constantly while they're learning how to eat. All right, next mistake I definitely made, and I did this with the quadruplets, which was not practicing with an open cup. I had no idea. Well, you can actually start your baby practicing to drink out of an open cup beginning at around 6 months of age. It's really important from a developmental standpoint, and it helps your baby meet their feeding and developmental milestones in the weaning period as you're approaching the 1-year mark. So the cup that I like is also from the company Easy Peasy. This is their tiny cup. You practice about 5 minutes after each meal. Your baby will reach that milestone of being able to drink out of an open cup on their own, albeit with a little spillage, by the time they turn 1. Another mistake I think a lot of us are guilty of, and I will raise my hand and say I'm the first one, is comparing your baby to other babies. This happens all of the time on social media. We'll post videos of baby and the comments will be like, how old is that baby? Exactly how old is that baby? My baby is that old and not doing that. You guys, all babies are different. All babies get teeth at different ages. All babies learn to walk at different ages. Your baby will master different feeding skills at different ages compared to other babies. I always tell parents, if you compare and despair, right? We cannot compare our babies to other people's babies, okay? I think it's a good idea to be aware of feeding milestones. I make lots of videos about especially nutrition milestones here on YouTube, but I don't want you to compare your baby to anyone else's baby. Your baby will get their own feeding skills. Practice makes progress. It'll come in due time. Trust me. Another mistake we see with baby-led weaning is people mistakenly thinking that baby-led weaning means, oh, you just don't spoon feed any purees. Okay, baby-led means the baby is the one who's driving the entire eating experience. Okay, and putting anything in your baby's mouth, including a spoon, can be a choking hazard. But it doesn't mean that you totally skip pureed foods. Okay, think about foods that are naturally pureed in their state, right? Yogurt, or applesauce or oatmeal. Okay, yeah, your baby is going to try to eat that with their hand, but you can also practice using what's called a pre-loaded spoon approach. So this is a term and a practice that was coined by Don Winkelman, the same expert who designed the Easy Peasy products. And the way the pre-loaded spoon works is you put the food on the spoon and the baby is the one who brings the spoon to their mouth. And in this way, they learn how to start using a spoon beginning at around 6 months of age. But purees are an important texture for your baby to master. It's just not the only texture your baby can eat. And my suggestion to you, I teach a purees for a few days approach to baby-led weaning. This really helps our anxious parents who are like, I cannot go from milk to solid avocado strips on day one. You can puree, do a thin puree, and then a chunkier puree, and then the strips of the avocado. You can do that all in the same day. But after about day 3, we don't unnecessarily puree any foods if the baby could be eating it in a soft, solid strip form. So yes, do those purees, but don't put the purees in your baby's mouth and don't unnecessarily puree any foods that weren't already pureed to begin with. All right, last mistake I see all the time is stressing about your baby not eating, okay? And it's natural. You see a jar of baby food or a pouch, and if the baby doesn't eat the whole thing, the parent thinks, what's wrong? This is how much they should eat. No, it's not. There is no set portion size for babies, okay? And it's not your job to make your baby eat. Okay, if we look at Ellen Satter's division of responsibility in feeding theory, whenever you are feeling pressure that your baby's not eating enough or not getting enough, you need to remind yourself, what's my job? And the division of responsibility in feeding theory says that we as parents and caregivers have 3 jobs. We're in charge of what the baby eats, we're in charge of when the baby eats, and we're in charge of where the baby eats. But the baby is ultimately in charge of how much or even whether they decide to eat. So you're starting to feel stressed. Oh my gosh, we're trying some meat. I put the meat out there. The baby's not eating any meat. I'm starting to feel stressed. Stop. Remind yourself. That's not my job. It's not my job to get the baby to eat. You're in charge of what the baby eats. Good for you for offering meat prepared safely. You're in charge of when the baby eats. Good job. Trying 1 to 2 times a day when they're 6 and 7 months of age. Practicing every day, not skipping days. You're in charge of where they eat. Oh, cool. They're seated properly in their high chair. You're doing your job. Your baby's job is to determine how much or even whether they eat. So stop putting pressure on yourself about how much your baby is eating. It doesn't matter. Especially early on in baby-led weaning, breast milk or formula is still providing most of your baby's needs. So keep up the great work, offering your baby all of those foods. Be sure to subscribe to my channel. I've got lots more videos coming your way about how you can push your baby towards success, but skip those 7 steps and those mistakes that I've made. I hope you don't make them, and I'll see you guys next time.